was completely the point.
I'll go there. Yes.
I might, David, do you mind introducing yourself?
Yep.
And we might go around the people on the screen first then, while I speak to Mark about what we do about the camera.
Okay.
I'm not quite sure if I can just wrench it or whether it needs to move.
Push a button somewhere. Yes, I'm David Speller. I work with actually the Detox Your Home program, but also Dave on the other programs. So I've been there for a while, and I'm certainly interested in hearing what's going on in this area because in the previous role I was working with social enterprises with Department of Human Services. So good to see this sort of work underway and to hear what you're doing and to see what we in government can do to make these projects work well and be really viable.
Next. I'm Catalina. I have quite a few hats on. I'm a volunteer for the Darwin Repair Cafe, one of the coordinators and volunteers at that. And doing that with the insurance, things like that there. Under a Sustainability Victoria grant, I'm working with Richmond Community Learning Centre, helping them set up a few things, including I've been helping them kind of streamline processes for the Richmond Repair Corner there. I've also set up a monthly repair event at North Colton Railway House, railway repair. So yeah, for people who are just starting out with their repair events, I'm very freshly just on that, so I'm happy to be a resource for people who want that.
Can you tell us a bit about your background in doing all of that? Do you mind?
Yeah, so I started out as a volunteer for an organisation called Transition Darebin, which is the kind of parent organisation for Darebin Repair Café. So I'm the president. Well, I started off actually as the treasurer for that organisation and then moved into president. And I've been the president, and that's an entirely volunteer organisation, I should add, for a year, and I'm on for the second year now. So TD is, in terms of the Repair Cafe, there kind of deals with the insurance and kind of all the financial side of things. And a lot of the volunteers from TD are also involved in the Darwin Repair Cafe as well. And I do similar things there for the Darwin Repair Cafe that I do for the others, in terms of like I mostly am involved in kind of like, you know, finances and kind of streamlining processes, organising booking systems. I've done some venue analysis, kind of those kinds of things, which are fancy words for I rocked up as a volunteer and did my best. Does that answer that question? Rowan?
Yeah, I suppose I was just wondering how you were able to help them set up, because it would help me know what questions I might be able to ask you. Like, are you coming from a project, community development?
Oh, my work background? Oh, totally unrelated.
How you got into doing that sort of more
yeah,
so? Look, allowed you to...
My background in terms of my main job is a veterinarian, which is, I mean, I guess related in the sense that it is kind of like repairing biology rather than physical things, and it's kind of like a kind of logical and process-based way of thinking for myself as a vet, not necessarily for everyone, of course. So I do, I guess, just in my general life, I do like kind of that kind of organizing and efficiency kind of thing as well. But yeah, I guess I don't have like a kind of, you know, project background or anything like that that gives me special qualifications. I've just kind of like jumped in and learnt via learning and just doing.
Thank you.
Charlie from Moody Valley Repair Cafe. We founded it about 2019, end of 2019, I think. No, it must have been 2018. And yeah, nothing much has changed in the last couple of months. We do have a sort of a mobile repair cafe project that's kind of underway. We've got a trailer that we want to fit out to become a repair cafe that can go around different events and so on. That would be good to get that project yeah, further along the track, but that's where we're at. Yeah.
No, don't mind.
Okay, so I'm just going to go on the list on my screen. So Helen.
Yes, good morning, everybody. It's very exciting to see so many people having either running, coordinating, or whatever repair cafes. It's something new for me. I've been supported by May Lee from Mernda Community House in establishing the one in Donnybrook, which is on the Olivine Estate. Many of you probably don't know where Donnybrook is. It's a northern outer Melbourne suburb, sort of north of Epping, north of Mernda, if any of that rings a bell. So we're kicking it off on Saturday the 3rd of February. And I'll be honest, most things are in place, but I am just a little bit nervous with the first one. We're making a bit of a festival of it, and the Whittlesea Council sustainability crew have been absolutely amazing. We're going to have the Whittlesea Men's Shed come out. We've got a choir joining us, the local ukulele people, just to make it really feel festive. And so fingers crossed.
Right. So next, Beck.
Hello. So I'm helping Rowan with some bits and pieces with the new cafe at Churnside Park. I shouldn't say new, we've been going for 6 months now, I think. Is that right, Rowan? We've had 6 cafes, so longer
than we're new, yeah, 6 months, since May.
Yeah, so I'm helping out with a bit of the marketing, a bit of volunteering, a bit of helping look for volunteers, early stages of that. I'm also volunteer sewer, and I've just done a knife sharpening course, so I'm hoping to bought the gear, hoping to offer that sometime next year.
Okay, thank you. And Ben.
Hi, how's it going? Ben from Western Health. We've been running a repair cafe out in the Melton region for, actually, how long has it been? I think we started the end of 2017. It's been going okay so far, but I think since the pandemic ended, our attendance has been slowly dropping off, and we're sort of struggling a little bit with maintaining it at the moment. That's probably our biggest issue, but otherwise, yeah, it's been an interesting few years.
Okay, that's great. And I think, Ben, you're interesting because you're one of the few, I think, that's supported like a health service. Like a lot of repair cafes are either co-located in a neighbourhood house or something like that. So that's interesting. Brendan. Fixable, Brendan, are you there? I'll move on to Danielle and come back to Brendan. Cameras on.
Are we just doing introductions? Sorry, I was late again.
Yeah.
Hi. Yeah. Hi everyone. My name's Danielle, and I work at 2 neighbourhood houses, both of which are currently running repair cafes. So one in Altona at Louis Joel Arts and Community, and the newly established one, which has been started with funding from Sustainability Victoria this year, which is in Albion, which is very next to Sunshine. Kind of having a break now. So November is generally the last one we hold at Louis Joel, and we all go away and have summer holidays and then return in February. But essentially going well. It's just those normal challenges of constant volunteer recruitment. Well, not constant, but, you know, ongoing volunteer recruitment as people move on.
Okay, well, I think we wanted to talk about that rather than raise that as an issue. Brendan, you're back on board, so I'll just get you to say goodbye.
Sure. I'm Brendan. I run a little business called Fixable. We received one of the community fund grants from Sustainability Victoria about 18 months ago, and set up an online community for repair and reuse. We've got kind of 500 plus members on there at the moment, and in the process of seeing if we can facilitate a kind of private subgroup on Fixable for Repair Cafe organisers and volunteers to have discussions and share ideas. And it's kind of like a mini social network, but it's completely private and free. So just wanted to see whether it might be useful for all you guys to you know, share what you know and some of the lessons you've all learned, so that it can make it easier for all the other clubs and cafes.
Fantastic. Esther.
Hi everyone, I'm Esther from Kensington Neighbourhood House, so community development is my role here. We also we partner with a few community organisations to run a repair cafe. We call it a repair hub actually, monthly, and we've also got a sustainability Vic grant. So within that is some funding to support the repair hub, and it's kind of a broader waste wisdoms program, so some waste education in there. And so we've been also running some repair workshops, teaching people some repairs. So we had a jewellery one and a couple of sewing ones so far. Yeah.
Okay. Fantastic. Thank you. Glad you're here. And we've got Hero.
Sorry, I was doing something else. My name is Hero, and I work at the Miranda Repair Cafe with Paris, who's also here in one of the screens, and May Lee Hunt, who was mentioned by Helen before. So been there for about a year, and my volunteering area is bicycle repairs. So yeah, first time here. Thank you for having me.
Nice. You're actually, I've also got a separate group where we're doing bicycle recycling, so maybe I should also later connect you with that group too if you're interested.
I
know there's a bit of crossover between this and that, but great to have you on board. And
thank you.
Brisbane. Leanne? What? Unmute.
Yep. Hi, everyone. I'm Leanne Wiseman. I established the Australian Repair Network, and I've been speaking to David on and off for a little while. We're a policy and advocacy group across Australia with repair stakeholders from a lot of industries, but we also like to help and support the Australian Repair Cafe Network. There's over 107 in Australia, and Victoria has the most. If even including the ones that you have been one-off or closed, you've had over 50. I think at present, David, you probably know better, but you've got probably over 39 that are operating, which is fantastic. So what we do on our, if you want to have a look on our Australian Repair Network website, we hold, some of you may have attended some workshops for Repair Cafe conveners and volunteers around data collection, about how to establish one. We actually have a 10 or 12 page document, David, which we're happy to share and work with you about how to set up a repair cafe, some of the issues that you need to look at. In Queensland, we have particular challenge around electrical repairs because our government requires that we have licensed electricians touch anything with a plug. So we can take out that page, but we've currently just, this is my area of research, the importance of repair in community. So community repair, you join 2,600 all across the world of repair cafes who all take different forms and different operations. So it's really good that we network and we learn from each other and that we build that. And Sustainability Victoria is one of the few governments at local, state and federal level who are actually directly funding repair cafes. So I'd like to congratulate Sustainability Victoria. I'm working with local, state and federal governments around how to get better support financially and also through laws and policies for repair cafes. So happy to reach out. We've just done a big survey of repair cafe volunteers in Australia and also repair conveners. So I hope you might have received that. We'll be pulling that together into some reports that we can then circulate to everyone about you know, how much is getting fixed and the challenges and opportunities that repair cafes offer. So I'm more than happy to speak to anyone, and we're just really here to support and help you grow. It's fantastic work you're all doing, so thank you.
Thank you, Leanne. And I would like to have a look at that document. I don't want to be duplicating something that's already out there.
Sure.
Paris, welcome. Linda?
Thank you. Sorry, it always takes a minute to unmute. Hi, everyone. Yep, Paris from Mernda Community House, and working with Hero and May Lee and a bunch of other amazing volunteers at Mernda Repair Cafe. We were funded 2 years ago by Sustainability Victoria to establish the Repair Cafe at Mernda Community House, and then received very generous amount of funding from our local council to keep that coordination role going for a little while. But we've come to the end of being able to source funding to continue the role. So now transitioning to a volunteer-run cafe program with Mernda Community House, you know, admin support stepping in more strongly. And Hero is also part of a very fledgling steering group for the Repair Cafe. And we hope to grow that in the new year to provide some guidance about its continued growth. So, yeah, we've got our last event on the 9th. We're always looking for new volunteers, new repairers, new hosts, etc. Yeah, we're looking forward to our 2024 Repair Cafe. I would like to just also add that in our very wonderfully, you know, culturally diverse area of Melbourne, which I mean the whole Melbourne is, I think the term Repair Cafe can be confusing, and I really liked someone else called their Repair Cafe, repair something. No, yeah, sorry, Rowan. What do you call your Repair Cafe?
Repair Cafe with the suburb at the front. I follow the international model.
Okay, so someone else is calling their.
It's me. Ours is the Kensington Repair Hub.
Repair Hub, and I think there was something else. Someone mentioned another name, but anyway, I won't take up any more time. But I think it's worth us thinking about maybe even calling it something different so that it's But be interested in your views around that.
That is different because there's some groups that are not active at the moment, but they've still got the Facebook group. And I mean, I mentioned the inner west one because people still log onto that Facebook and people still give advice. So it's still kind of functioning, but it's not a repair cafe per se. They don't have anyone to take the running of it at the moment. So while you're still on or off mute. You're the last person on the list. So last but not least, how are things in Churnside? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you all here. I'm the coordinator for the Churnside Park Repair Cafe. We're very new, having run the first cafe in May. Sort of had the idea in March, and by May we were up and running. And it's proved to be successful so far. We run for 2 hours on the first Sunday of the month, usually from 10 to 12. And we've had more than 20 people through the door in that time. And of course, you always grow and learn. I think that will be ongoing, which is quite exciting. And you realize that a lot of it is about diagnosing as well, and also knowing where to refer people for parts. And another focus of ours is for end-of-life recycling, so letting people know where they can take items to be ethically disposed of when they do reach end of life. So we're a very new repair cafe. This is my second forum. At the last cafe, we were the youngest, so really looking to get lots of knowledge and ask lots of questions. Given that it's going well, I still think there are some grey areas, especially around electrical repairs. who can do what. So we've still been doing electrical repairs, but I still think there's been a change to government requirements. We'll get into that later. I've luckily got a tag and tester coming on board, and I've had someone else offer to buy as a machine and put someone through training. So they're really great, great progress to make. And I also appreciate that perhaps all repair cafes don't want to achieve the same goals, and it would be good to know what goals you're all hoping to achieve with your repair cafes or hubs. Funding's always great to get. I know with Marie, who runs the Ringwood Repair Cafe, and I don't believe is here today, they've just celebrated 6 years of their repair cafe run out of the church in Ringwood, and they have lines out the door. You know, they run on a Saturday afternoon and they have big queues and they get a lot of donations. She doesn't do a lot of promotion. She doesn't advertise things. So it's really run at a very bare minimum. And I don't think she'd mind me saying that because she said that to me herself. So it's interesting that different levels of effort are put in and different levels of success are achieved. And yeah, there are a few things I'd like us to touch on today about how people are approaching the electrical repairs. Do you have public liability insurance, as I do? The cafes run out of a community hub in Churnside Park, and so they do have insurance, but I do still think and wonder, is there any personal liability from the person who's repairing, and you know, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I'd like to talk about today, and also learn a bit more about how people are running workshops. I have people that can run workshops. I know how to set that up. I'm a trainer and assessor, an English language teacher, but also coming from the community development way of thinking, and a project and programs sort of management skill set as well, I suppose. So it's lovely to be here, and thanks to Sustainability Victoria for putting this on for us.
Grant, I might use that as a segue to our first agenda item, which was around insurance, because in fact, I think the last forum, and Marie was at the last forum, and I remember her talking a lot about that because they're purely volunteer-run cafe. But I think that was one of the things that got us thinking, was the whole electrical repair and the question about, I think, I mean, I assume everybody has insurance, and we get people to sign a disclaimer or a waiver, and the question was, is that enough to protect you? And again, I think we were talking more in terms of, because we had somebody from the Children's Toy Library Association. So they were talking about, you know, the liability you might have repairing children's toys. And a lot of cafes said, we don't touch children's toys for that reason. But I'm happy to open up the discussion. I know whether people just want to raise their hands or start chatting about what their thoughts are around electrical. Because I know we did, Danielle, we did do a test and tag got a test and tag machine for, is Danielle frozen? Is Danielle there? I think her screen is frozen.
No, I'm multitasking. Sorry, I've just got a phone call.
All right.
Yeah, we did get testing and tagging, and we also got a pat machine.
Yeah. So that's one group. Around what are you doing at the Churnside at the moment?
Thanks for asking. So I have an electrical engineer who's degree qualified, and he's been doing a lot of the mains power repairs for transistor radios and things, portable items. There are other people that have skills, and they've been doing repairs on that under his supervision, if you like. He'll just check it at the end. But we have had a couple of occasions where someone who isn't an electrician has cut cables and retied it back together, you know, which shouldn't be happening. So it gets a little convoluted. This electrical engineer is of retirement age, and the government have made new laws that say if you have that qualification, you have to do this new upgrade to be able to continue to repair electrical items. And he told me it costs $600. I don't know what it's called, but it's a short course. You have to do that because errors have been made and stuff. So I wondered if anyone else knew about this and had a workaround for it. I do also have another man that hasn't come to the cafe but has put his hand up. He's trade and university qualified as an electrician. And I'm wondering if you just have someone there who is an electrician and they sort of in a supervisory role, does that permit the electrical engineer to then do the repairs? Is anyone sort of operating under that format? I mean, we didn't really want it to be about someone supervising another person.
In Victoria, there's
$600 to put someone through a course. That would be good. So that's kind of like my question. How are you managing your electrical repairs? Do you have a qualified electrician? Do you have electrical engineers, and how are you getting?
Yep. In Victoria, there is no requirement for any qualification whatsoever to do electrical repairs on appliances that are not permanently attached to the main system. That's a great thing for us to do those things. An electrical engineer has no more qualification than me that has no qualifications to do electrical repairs. You have to be an electrician, which is a very different thing than an electrical engineer, despite an electrical engineer knowing a lot more about how everything works at a very more detailed level.
Yes.
I don't think having someone, we've had electricians that come to do the Repair Cafe and will specifically say they don't want to do electrical work because it then puts the onus on their license and their insurance for them to put their name to an electrical repair. So that complicates things a little bit.
So there is definitely a personal onus on them, even if you've got house rules and it's been signed and there's a waiver of public liability.
Not strictly speaking and not specifically, but potentially. That's the problem with being qualified and having a license and then doing repairs that, yeah, that's where it gets very grey.
Right, so you're finding that to be a grey area as well. Does anyone else have a bit more information around that? Because I don't like it being grey. I like it to be black and white.
Okay.
I would also love it to be black and white, but also only have grey. What the repair cafes I'm involved in settled on is Darebin has quite a solid foundation of kind of like people with test and tagging ability, and we have machines that we share out to other organisations in the local area, along with our test and tag volunteers. So Darebin does encourage electrical repairs to get tested and tagged. And certainly there is another organisation in the local area that was selling secondhand electrical items that maybe have been repaired. Some not, some have. But what they said on was they were okay to sell them so long as they had been tested and tagged as safe. And they run under the same insurance more or less as what Darebin Repair Cafe has. The other two in the waiver say you should, like, people should get tested and tagged, but we don't have that ability. But we kind of have it in there, like, you really should get it tested and tagged before you use it.
So is that once someone's taken it away, once it's been repaired?
Sorry?
Is that once it's been repaired?
Yeah, so we say that really once we fix it, you really should go get tested and tagged, for example, at Darebin, but we have no enforcing ability.
So there's two separate ones about doing the electrical repair, and the second bit is about the testing and tagging.
Yeah.
And use the waiver to cover that. Can we hold on to that because we've got a few hands up on the online space, and Ellen's had a hand up for a bit, and Ben's had his hand up as well. So just Helen, you want to?
Oh, hi. Yes, thanks. I did actually, in the end, I found where you can make comments. This is a whole new arena for me, so it's exciting as well. I was very interested in the Charlie talking about the mobile trailer, because it's something that Whittlesea Council raised with me about getting a trailer that could be used at our repair cafe, but maybe at others too. So I wondered what Charlie and his group's thinking was around how this would work, and yeah, just keen to know more.
Do you mind if we hold on to that one for the next item?
Yes, please.
Yep. And we'll just finish the electrical test and tag discussion. But Ben, you had your hand up as well, so.
Yeah. When we first started out, this was something that we grappled with a little bit, and our engineering team looked into it from the legal perspective, and it's basically, from what we found out, deliberately a grey area because nobody wants to take liability for something going wrong. So yeah, in the past we have had people who are qualified and ticketed to be able to sign off on repairs, like overlooking other people's work and then signing it off. But yeah, as you say, that is a difficult area when you do have that sort of thing as well, because they don't tend to stick around for very long either. But we found the way that's worked best for us is just to allow the fixers to make their own decisions around what they're prepared to do and not prepared to do. In terms of the liability side of things and the disclaimer, our understanding is that it wouldn't hold up if there was any sort of legal issue that did pop up. Our fixers don't do electrical items when it comes to repairing the electrical components. They will do like if there's an electrical item that's damaged in some way from a what's the word I'm looking for, like the outer casing of something, for instance, or just like the aesthetic side of things. Sorry?
Like the insulation's gone or whatever, like the, yeah.
Yeah, just anything that's not the actual electrical components. Generally, there's no liability around repairing those sorts of things. And with like anything that doesn't, hit the actual electrical aspect of it, that's what they're currently fixing. If we were to incorporate the inclusion of repairing electrical items, as in like electrical boards and anything that has a plug, it becomes a little bit more difficult.
Ben, do you mind if I ask, do you have tag and test? I'm going to have that at my cafe next year, which is a great asset. And it just gives us a bit more peace of mind that we've, dotted the I's and crossed the T's. But do you have that at your cafe?
We do have someone who can do that and has done in the past. They prefer not to do it though, just because they don't want to be taking away business from other local people in the area that rely on repairing electrical items as well. So they also don't want to be sort of a one-stop shop for people to come in and get things tagged and tested. So it's more of a case-by-case basis. They'll sometimes do it and sometimes not.
So you have people that don't necessarily need something fixed, but they just want you to test it for them to see if it's safe?
Yeah, we've had a few people come in with something like that and they've said, no, we're not doing that.
You could offer that as a special service and charge money for it then. It could just be outside of the repair and that could be a profit maker for you, just an idea. We've had people come in with clothing alterations and it's not really what the Repair Cafe is about, but we're going to add it as a special service next year, and because we have 3 sewers, so just an idea.
Okay.
Yep.
Do you mind if we park that one around it too? Because I think there's a couple of things you talked about, paying fee and that kind of thing. So, Lan, you had your hand up before. I know you put in a comment about the Repair Cafe and the name. So, was that what you wanted to talk about, or was it more about the tagging and the electrical?
I just wanted to mention about the electrical repair. It is a challenge for every one of Australia's 107 repair cafes. This is something that changes state by state. As I said, Queensland has certain requirements around licensed electricians, but the rest of Australia, you are much more free to do the repairs. What I think is really important, when people say it's a grey area, it's actually not in the law. I'm a lawyer. It's very clear as to who can test and tag and who is required to test and tag. What I think would be really useful is for each of our state governments who regulate this space around electrical and license repairs is to actually help us and give us advice so that we can, I'm happy to work with them. We've worked with our Queensland government to get a one-pager to make it really clear who has to do what. Some of our repair cafes actually have electricians from their own business who come along and volunteer a couple of hours, and they wear their licensed electrician tradie uniforms, and anything that's a bit tricky or dangerous, they refer back to their own business. So we're supporting the local electrical businesses, but they also offer their time. So that's one way to get around this, is to actually get real practicing electricians into your repair cafes if they've got, that time. But that testing and tagging issue is something that every state, and it shouldn't be difficult for repair cafes to find out what the position is. And this is not our responsibility for each of the 33 or 35 repair cafes each to get, work it out themselves. It's something that needs to come down from the top. I would suggest, David, maybe not environment, but from your partners in the regulatory space, just be clear for any, you know, what can and can't be done legally for people. It would be a lot simpler that Victoria has one position statement around that, and so every repair cafe can just refer to that and then adjust their practice accordingly.
Good question.
So
Just a quick question to follow on from that around the legality. I know that a lot of equipment when you buy it, it's got a note on the back saying your warranty is void if it's been repaired by a non-authorised repairer. So although you may deal with the electrical side, but does this in any way affect people's warranties or guarantees with equipment if it's repaired by somebody at a cafe that the owner may need to be aware of? Or
electrical or not, actually.
Right?
Electrical
or not, yeah. But I think we're talking about the electrical things, and often that's electrical equipment has that sort of noted on it. That,
To be honest, there's very few things that are brought into repair cafes that are still under warranty. Most warranties are 12 months or 2 years, and most of the things that we see are breaking 5, 7, 6 years out. So I'm happy to talk about your consumer rights and what manufacturer warranties, but often the products are outside of that warranty, so that's not an issue.
Well, they may have claimed the warranty it was broken in the first place. So yeah.
It's good to be across those sort of things about the consumer warranty. So like we have lots of things that do come in, and I think I gave an example last meeting about a heater that had a lifetime warranty, and before we started taking it apart, we let the person that owned it know about that, and they took it away to get it repaired. But yeah, knowing about the statutory warranty stuff on things is really good to push it back on manufacturers as well before we go ahead and try and unbreak something.
Really good choice. Australia has got really good information around what to do when your warranty is in place and what to do when your consumer rights operate. So there's a lot of information there. I'm happy to try and pull something together and circulate it for you, because that is a really good issue. It's a problem for a lot of people.
So, I mean, Len, taking your comment that it would be good to get the government about this. So what I'm hearing is like maybe the best practice, first of all, is to check in when the electrical thing comes in about whether it's under warranty or not for a start, because that might be a key issue. Secondly, I guess you got to look at your repair and see if we got an electrician or anybody who's qualified to do this at all.
We talk about competent to do it. If the person that is repairing electrical items is competent to repair an electrical item. Their qualification, like I say, is not required, and in many cases not particularly relevant.
And then in terms of risk management, depends on what is being repaired, like whether it's a small portable battery powered electrical thing
or a heater
versus something that's got mains power, which might carry bigger risk. Is that right? And then the final thing is whether the repairer feels comfortable about that and whether they might refer it back to their own business. Might be where they're actually covered by their license, by their insurance. And that waivers are good, but not magical. Yeah. So, and Daniel, you've got your hand up.
I guess the only thing that so when we first started Altona Repair Cafe, we actually had funding to pay an electrician to come in and could not find one. I think if we get to a stage where we go to government and say, what would you like us to do under best practice? And they come back and say, you need to have a licensed electrician, you're actually going to find a lot of repair cafes are going to cease to be able to repair electricals, in my opinion. Because I think, you've got tradespeople who are really, we all know if we're trying to get a tradesperson, they've got lots and lots of work on, and it's going to be difficult to find a qualified electrician to join each of the 39 or 50 repair cafes in Victoria, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the final question of that is whether does your insurance cover this kind of thing or has specific clauses that say you can't do that? Does anyone have anything in their insurance that? Right.
Not on electrical, like a bicycle things or something.
Right. So it's interesting.
I was going to say when we started Altona as well, we checked off with VMIA. We've got VMIA insurance. and they didn't flag issues, so they're aware that we're running the program and it's approved.
We checked in with VMA and they said, oh, we couldn't, we only do government and we can't help with community groups. So.
But we get, because we get, as a neighbourhood house, we get funding through DFFH.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that, Danielle? Because I also work through Learn Local Neighbourhood Houses, and that's where the Repair Cafe is set up, and that's where we get our liability insurance from.
So DFFH, so we're funded under the Neighbourhood House Coordination Program, which entitles us to funding through VMIA, and essentially it covers programs that are ours. So it can't be an external run program that's just using a space. It needs to be a house program, but it provides public liability insurance and all the other insurances, volunteer insurance, etc.
And you need to have that separate to the actual community house insurance that you have already?
It all sits under it's the same. Does that make sense? So
I don't know the VMIA are, and no, it doesn't completely make sense, because I just want to know if that's something I should pursue to get separate insurance or not. But it sounds like
so we haven't got separate insurance. It's our organisational insurance because it's our program. It sits under our program, and the insurance for our organisation covers our program.
Right.
Yeah.
Same here then. So do you have an electrician at your cafe?
No.
So do you do electrical repairs?
Yes, we do. We have electrical engineers and we also have people who test and tag. Yeah, but we don't have an electrician, not a qualified electrician.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
We might sort of cover off on that item then. So the second thing we were talking about is around advocacy, and was there anybody working on any advocacy projects beyond what you're doing with Repair Cafe? And maybe I can wrap under this too, the conversation we're having about repairs being Repair Cafes, what that is. It's interesting. I think in the chat, Leanne was explaining that when the Repair Cafe concept came up in Amsterdam was because they actually did, serve coffee or tea or made it a bit of a social thing.
It was cafe.
Yeah. So I guess this topic is more around, okay, what are the functions of a Repair Cafe? We're talking about doing workshops. We're talking about doing advocacy. Again, we can bring up also maybe the pop-up stuff. I don't know where we'd like to start on this topic.
How do you want me to?
Yeah, Caroline, yeah.
So as I mentioned, I'm doing some work under a Sustainability Victoria grant in terms of kind of Repair Cafe style events. The new one, as I said, is Repair Corner, and they're focusing more on, like, they do fix things, but their focus is actually more on educating people that things can be repaired and the skills to repair their own things. It's kind of like a starting point for that education. And that's partly because it is such a small venue. It's never going to be as big as many of your and other events. It's a tiny, tiny room. And partly because that's what the community has actually very rapidly come in wanting. So even though it wasn't advertised that way, we have a significant number of people coming in with their items being like, don't fix the button for me. I want you to show me how to put the button on, and I want to do it myself. And same with using sewing machines. We had someone drop in to chat to the electric fixers about how to fix their bike. So it's, I think, much more of a focus on educating rather than fixing. So the stats, you know, because everyone seems to kind of like keep track of weight, the stats look really not great. But that's because so many people are coming along without their item saying, give me the advice, give the information where to go, things like that. More so than necessarily getting the item fixed at that event, if that makes sense. So yeah, definitely education rather than just repairing. In terms of the other events running under the workshop, under the funding, there's a lot of workshops being run. So Alphington Community Centre is also involved in this project. And what their community has asked for are workshops that teach community members how to do various things like bike repair, how to, you know, repair and maintain a sewing machine, overlocker, and a number of other things. And then those people seem to very organically go out into the community, and the feedback we're getting from them is they're actually teaching other people. So, you know, maybe we only have, you know, 5 to 12 people in a workshop. But then because these people, you know, we hear back and we're thinking, oh, okay, there's a wave.
And are they topic specific? So it's like bring your sewing stuff. We're doing a sewing workshop, or is it just bring your thing, whatever it is, whether
No,
it's
there's a specific topic. So we have a specific facilitator.
Yep.
So yeah, say the sewing machine maintenance and repair. That was, you know, bring along your sewing machine, whether it's broken or just needs maintenance or you just want to learn. And we're going to teach you on your machine, and using everyone else's machines as an example, so you get a mix of old and new, how to do the maintenance for those machines. So it's topic based.
Okay, great. Now we've got some hands up. Was your hand up from before? And then Leanne, you had your hand up, but you might put some comments about repair vans. So, and also Scott's got his hand up as well. Scott's joined us from before, so we'll get you to introduce yourself, Scott. We'll get on. Sorry, Helen.
Sorry, I just didn't catch the name who was speaking just then.
Oh, sorry, Catalina.
Catalina. That's very interesting, because part of what we're proposing to do with the Donnybrook one is provide some workshops and as we go, showing people how the items that we're repairing for them are being repaired. And at a circular fashion market on Saturday in Doreen, I repaired a couple of things for people and was showing them and explaining to them different ways that they could do things. And there's a real interest. So interesting to hear your feedback on that too, Catalina.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess it's good. So it's the next topic. We've got Brendan. We've got there's like a, you know, maybe information sharing about these things on a platform would be great to know what people are doing as a project. If you want to contact someone and go, oh, I saw you're doing that workshop, who did you get to facilitate, or how did it go? Now I've got Scott with your hand up. So hi, Scott.
Hi, thanks for having me on. I was hoping to be there in person, but I got wiped out by a virus. I'm looking at starting a repair cafe in Williamstown, and I've been along to visit one in Ascot Vale, and that was really helpful. And so I just came along to learn. I sort of missed the bit about insurance, unfortunately, which has been a key topic for me. But I did have a specific question for Catalina. Catalina, how did you determine what the community wanted? So I liked what I heard. They want to know how to repair an overlock or a bicycle, etc. But what was your means of ascertaining that?
Yeah, so a few different ways. So the one I was speaking about then was Alphington Community Centre, which is a neighbourhood house. And they have quite close or very close links to their local community. And also, you know, myself as a person who is also very embedded in that community as well. So kind of having kind of a finger on the pulse, so to speak. So a lot of it is through conversations just with people when you're kind of out and about doing your volunteering or you're working or whatever else. I don't know that the neighborhood house did for this particular topic, but they have in the past done expressions of interest. So they'll send out an email, actually asking specific questions like, we're thinking of running XYZ. Does that appeal to you, or you are looking for something similar but a bit different, and getting that feedback that way? And a certain amount of people coming in asking for specific things as well. So the sewing machine one was a lot of people actually come in asking if they had or were going to run some stuff on maintaining a sewing machine and using a sewing machine.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, I've had a couple of people approach me about bicycles in particular, and they say, well, when I get a puncture, I'm washed up, and I think, well, that's not okay. So, yeah, that's good, and I like your idea of planning something and then putting it out there and sort of refining it from that point. Thanks.
What I said, like in a lot of the repair cafes, the idea is when people come in, as much as possible, you want to show people rather than just fix it for them.
Yeah.
And I think we kind of talked about that last time. So in terms of then, so one thing that people are interested in is doing some workshops. But I guess you have to check the local knowledge and how do you organise that? Like, have you got the people who've got the facilitating skills or the repair skills to do that? The other thing is the mobile repair stuff. So, Charlie, do you want to talk a little bit about that project then, just so that, because I know some of the bicycle recyclers, they do that a bit too. They've got their little trailers and they like to go out and do that kind of work.
Yeah, the bicycle repairs, I've got some in Melbourne that I've got some good setups, and that was, a couple of them were a bit of an inspiration to me to start working on a plan for a mobile repair cafe. To begin with, I bought a cargo bike to do that with. There's a couple of cargo bike based mobile bicycle repair places, people in Melbourne. I think a bigger inspiration was there's Moonee Valley is quite a large, Moonee Valley City Council area is quite large, and I sort of straddle another council area as well. And there's specific areas within those councils, being inner city Melbourne, that have housing commission areas and that sort of stuff, that could really benefit from having a repair cafe much closer to them. But probably not there's not the interest to do that specifically at those places. But if we have a mobile repair cafe, we could do that. We have done a couple of pop-ups at Wingate in Moonee Valley that was quite successful, and was really very well taken up, with lots of people bringing devices to repair.
Would it be fair to say that that takes a bit of partnership, either from local council or from other services?
Yeah,
to say, let's create an event, because otherwise you turn up and people don't know it's on. And
we don't have the reach into those sort of communities to advertise or promote that. Our Moonee Valley Repair Cafe, our promotion is probably limited to Facebook, just because I'm doing that, and that's all I do it through. But absolutely, I think that would be key to have other councils involved and people promoting it and inviting us along to those things.
That's interesting, because we do have sort of like networks for different sustainability groups in the council, and so that kind of communities, one group thinking we're planning to do this. How do you make those partnerships, those connections?
The other thing with a mobile repair cafe, and the Mended Australia people are kind of advocates of this, because they do go to the openings of pretty much every repair cafe, certainly in Victoria, of having a mobile repair cafe that kind of bootstraps new repair cafes. So a mobile repair cafes can come along with all the tools that we know repair cafes kind of need. And people running the repair cafe for the specific local repair cafe can see what is needed on an event, and they can start that process.
You've got your hand up.
Thanks, David. I'm just curious to understand where the need for a mobile repair cafe was born from. Are people unable to get to your monthly repair cafe?
I think what David touched on, that there's a lot of communities that aren't aware of what repair cafes are, or that there is such a service. And we found that specifically with a couple of events that we did do, a pop-up Repair Cafe ad, not using our mobile Repair Cafe because that's still just in concept really. Yeah, I think there's so many areas of society that we just don't touch on.
I'm intrigued with the.
Sorry, I just wanted to ask then, how is it that you're unable to engage them at your cafe, but you're able to engage them when you're mobile? What is it that you're doing differently?
So as David also touched on, being part of a larger event that a Repair Cafe is one component of, be it a fair, a school, primary school fundraising fair or something like this, I think that's where it would be key and would expose us and Repair Cafes in general to that concept.
I think last the
great,
weekend before last, one of the people who've done garage sale trail, they were kind of doing this big event promoting lots of sort of garage sale events. So one thing is they were working with City of Melbourne, and they were going to a sort of a lot of the new residential towers out in South Bank, and they had the men's shed actually set up a mobile repair centre as part of that event. So they had people selling the secondhand stuff. We were there with our information, and council was there with their information. They also had the mobile repair thing. And a lot of people came down and had no idea, because a lot of people in that particular area of City of Melbourne, a lot of new arrivals, people who've moved to the city, or people who've come from overseas, or people who've moved downsized and moved into the city. So they're really desperate to connect with community. They kept on coming up to us and asking, how can I volunteer for this, or what can I do? It's very sort of different event from other events where I've been to.
The garage sale trail would be a perfect thing to collaborate with. It really would be. And they appeared on ABC Radio and were talking about the circular economy and how second-hand equipment can extend that, and people's knowledge of that.
Yeah. So we've got a few hands up. So back to the online, and then we might call a break because we've sort of been going for an hour, and everyone can just have a leg stretch and everything. So Helen, I think you had the hand up first, and then Leanne.
Yeah, thanks for that. This is a fascinating discussion about the mobile thing. Just thinking about retirement villages came to mind too, because that's an area where often there's a small men's shed operating in many of the retirement villages. Maybe that's another area where a mobile service could be useful, or even promoting the repair cafes through the retirement villages, as there may be people there who would be interested in being a part of it. It seems like it could be good for a mobile service in any case to help people know about that in an area where they might not otherwise hear about it.
Yep, absolutely. Good idea.
Yeah, I think it's sometimes just getting it in people's faces, because I think a lot of repair cafes, they operate out of neighbourhood houses, and there's nothing wrong with that. They're fantastic connections, but I guess each neighbourhood house has its connection with a particular cohort.
Well, I've just been talking with a lady who popped in to pick up something I'd repaired for her, and she's a young mum, and she's part of a young mums group that we've got here on Olivine, and there's 3 young mum groups, and they've never ever heard of a repair cafe. So I'm going to go and have a wee chat with each of the groups. So it's just looking at those opportunities.
Yeah, often it's about thinking about where the need is too. In a previous job, I was working with Neighbourhood Renewal, which is targeting public housing areas to support people around that area. And often people were having to leave their tenancy because they weren't maintaining things well, and generally that was because they didn't have access to tools. So a lot of those communities set up tool libraries so they could share even basic tools. So again, that's the sort of thing that a repair cafe would help in terms of giving people assistance around that, in terms of being able to maintain some simple things that if they don't do that, then they may lose their tenancy or be thrown out, or other people have similar needs where they just don't have access to tools or a space to repair things.
And Leanne, you had your hand up.
Thank you. Sorry, I put it in the chat, but if anyone wants to talk about a mobile repair van, there is already one in existence. It's been operating for a couple of years in Belgium. I know the guy who's designed it. All the plans are open plan. It costs about $50,000 to build this specific repair cafe trailer. It's got pull out, it's got umbrellas, it's got where all you put your tools, it's got 8 PowerPoints, it's got everything. It's ideal and it fits on a normal car, on a tow bar, on a normal car. I've got a proposal with the Queensland government to try and reach out to rural and remote. And the function really is more about, as you said, community awareness raising of repair instead of replace. And if you can come into town and do a little bit of an expo, repair expo, you can leave that town with the idea that you don't just have to throw things out. And so that's that kind of, you know, it's community building, it's education, it's, you know, the economic, you know, you can save stuff from going the waste and the economic waste as well. You don't have to replace stuff. So it ticks all the boxes and it's been proven successful in Europe. So I'm happy to share all that information with you. And these are the good things about, you know, talking on a national scale, because everyone's kind of thinking along the same lines, and so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Well, presumably, if someone has a wheel too, that you might like to share it. And I don't know, Charlie, because you're trying to get that up. Would that be part of the thing too, where if
$50,000 seems we could do an amazing trailer with that amount of money. Yeah, we've got a trailer that does tick a few boxes. It's quite old and needs a bit of a paint, but yeah, I think collaborating with, as I said, it would be an asset that would be beneficial to all repair cafes within Melbourne, certainly, and a little bit further beyond. And would absolutely like to collaborate and get teams together to help either refurbish the trailer we have or to start working on a bigger goal that has a much better trailer in mind.
So some of the key points people would like to do mobile stuff, but it's about getting a trailer and getting a resource. That's something that maybe if somebody gets 1 or 2 up, you could share in the group. And then the second thing is finding the demand. So each group probably has a pocket of people where they'd like to meet. That's about establishing partnerships with council and or other agencies or find linking in with the festival to make that happen. The last thing to forget to break, I was just thinking, when we're doing the bicycle recyclers, there are things called bicycle kitchens, which is interesting because they're literally homeless, you know, repair. They don't have a central location. They literally go out, you know, with their little mobile repair. I shouldn't say like, you know, that really efficient setup, and they, you know, like they'll let people know on Facebook that we're going to be down at this intersection. And I think bicycle repair can be very mobile. It's very agile. And I think, you know, with your bigger repair stuff, you know, you've got to probably think, what is a good use of our resources on the trail? What sort of things can we do? Should we do big textiles, or should we focus in more on household appliances? Like that stuff. Yeah, the challenge out there.
The mobile repair, bicycle repair guys that I've met at different bicycle expos, they're keen. They expressed that they would be keen to come along to a repair cafe as well with their mobile bicycle repairs, cargo bike, and so on and so on.
And again, with the bicycle recyclers, they've got 2 targets too, because they're not only just trying to seek people to get repairs and that kind of thing, but also trying to sell bikes too. So they're going to those orders as well. So, okay. Does everybody have a 10-minute break, and we be back at just trying to get my watch up on my screen here, Dave.
12:24.
So it's 12:24 now.
That's 12:40 now, so.
Yeah, so 12:25, back at 12:25. And if you can, did you get that capability statement? We'll talk about fixable, and then did everyone get that capability statement? Have you got any comments about that? Maybe if we could have a quick feedback on that when we get back. Okay, see you back at, I'll put that in the chat, back at 12:25.
Oh, definitely need a stretch.
And maybe mute, yeah.
The biology was just throwing around. Like, even, I mean, fixing anything like throwing around and crap, but I feel like when I'm fixing like clothing or whatever, like there's a limit on the number of complications there can be. But with like a biological system, it's
The other side to it is same with my IT side of things.
Yeah.
20% of my work is hardware, so it's software, but 60% where
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. We're back on the line in the room here. If you're at your computer, you could switch on and say good day. We'll see, Brendan, we might actually start with the communication piece, if that's okay, about how cafes stay in communication. Because Charlie was talking before about one thing you didn't mention was that you did a piece on 3AW. They were doing something about repair cafes.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, I got completely blank when David was asking about what had happened over the last couple of months. But I got phoned up one afternoon randomly, and they asked me to do a quick interview about repair cafes. So they did a sort of practice one at 2 p.m. and then said, you'll be on at drive time, we'll give you a call 5 minutes before. And that went pretty well. I think I can't remember his name, Tom, someone on 3A, that's not a station I listen to. And but yeah, he wanted to talk about his poster quite a bit. So I didn't get to cover all the points that I wanted to talk about, but I got a couple of big points in there. Yeah. But it was good to expand the audience beyond, the potentially people that care about the environment, other things that our normal channels that I communicate on, and extend that out to a much broader, popular place.
So, in terms of then communication, it's like there are a number of occasions where people in the group would like to, you just like to do a quick broadcast to the group and say, hey, I'm doing media, or hey, we did media, check it out, this is the link. Or we've got the trailer, or we need help with the trailer. And also, what is everybody doing for the Zero Waste Festival or the Sustainable Living Festival? Should we link up and do a combined thing?
So there are some channels for that, and Brendan's Fixable is a perfect platform for that. We've also got Mendon Australia's Repair and Share Facebook group. But I think all of these things, there's not much activity on any of them, which is a real shame. But like any of these community events, be it a repair cafe or some online platform, it's really down to how much each of us can contribute and contribute regularly.
I think it would be nice to not have it on Facebook.
Because
Facebook, but also because it seems to be hiding.
Yeah,
stuff.
Even within my own fields that I'm interested in, I miss out things for sure.
One interesting thing, and I take from the bicycle repair group, because they also have this generational conflict between WhatsApp and Slacker, and so there's every generation must have their platform of choice. Yeah. So I'm Facebook. I think there's definitely, I would say, every repair cafe is still going to probably have some kind of Facebook presence, because that's where you connect with your audience. But then, where you connect with each other.
I think having it at Fixable sounds like a good plan. I think there's certain features that we might need that Fixable may or may not have at the moment in terms of events, having some calendars that we can put things in so that we can see at a glance any repair cafe related events, and maybe Leanne has some options for a platform that is something we haven't thought about either.
Yeah, Brendan?
Charlie, I'll just comment on the Fixable platform. You can actually enter event details in there. You could have them either, so just for everyone who may not be aware, Fixable is a community software platform. It's kind of semi-closed, so you have to know about it to come on it, but anyone can join. We're a social enterprise, so there's no quasi-evil corporation mining user data or anything like that, like there might be on some other platforms. And we've got the broader Fixable community, and then we've got what are called spaces, and those are subgroups within Fixable. Those spaces can be open to anyone to join, or they can be closed. And so what I did was created a space for organisers of repair groups, community repair groups, and that's a closed space. So it's somewhere for, imagine having an asynchronous version of this seminar just open constantly with organisers from repair cafes and community repair groups all over Victoria and some interstate as well, where you can ask questions, start discussions, upload videos or photos of your trailer, or anything that's of interest to you. Links, chats. You can have one-on-one chats. You can have group chats that are sort of away from the feed of the actual the group itself. So they're like more private chats. So the capabilities are pretty good. And you can post and link events on there and promote events as well. So what we're trying, sorry, one last thing, what I'm trying to achieve is to get as many, be just wonderful. We could have lots and lots of community repair groups on there. And then that's going to help the wider fixable community get bigger as well. And it can be a win-win because you'll be able to find volunteers more easily, as well as promote your events to people who are interested.
So just to the question about connecting, I did send an email to this group with the link to Fixable to the group. I logged in and then so I'm happy to resend that email. But I think that took you right into the group that you created, didn't it, Brendan?
It did, yeah.
So you can definitely, as Gazelle was asking me, just Google Fix It, and you can also do that. Like anything, you've got to set up a username with a password. It's always a, I don't know, I think about 100 or so accounts now.
So I've been part of Fixable for a while, and I've only just, in the last couple of minutes, found the specific space that I was, the community repair organisers space is the one to look for.
Yes.
But what I could do is when I do circulate my notes from this, I could also put them on Fixable, and you could start a couple of discussion threads around things like electrical repairs. And I could do that as the start of the discussion thread, and then people could get into that about what they're doing at their individual cafes or what questions they'd like asked.
Yeah, it'd be great if, I won't take any personal offence if you don't like it, but it'd be wonderful if a bunch of you could jump on and just test it out, see if you like it, and be really frank with your feedback. If there's something that it doesn't do, just let me know, because it might be possible. Or, if there's things that you do like, we can try to dial that up. So be really frank and honest if you do jump on.
Yeah. Danny, you've got your hand up.
So I did register, but then and had a wee little bit of a look. But one of the questions would be, does it send you notifications?
It can, Danielle. Yeah, you can set your notifications. So you can either use Fixable in your internet browser. There's also an app called Mighty Networks, and you can download that app. That's an Android and iOS app, and you just search for Fixable there. Or if you set up through the website, then it'll invite you to download the app as well. And then you can set your notifications. There's quite a bit of granularity. So if you just want notifications when people directly message you, or anything that's in a feed that you're following or someone who you're following, then you'll get notified of that. So there's quite a bit of flexibility with it.
Is there anything else? So, Joe, you mentioned Amendments Australia's Facebook feed. And there's no reason why you can't use both platforms. But I think, some of this stuff, particularly around, policy and media opportunities, that kind of thing, would be good to have an exclusive sort of chat area. Yeah. And I think it's good, we've got some, from Mernda, we've actually got a coordinator and a tool. So, you want to have all your, sounds like you want to have all your sort of members of your repair cafe, not just like the coordinators, but get your repairers involved too, because that's when you do the sharing and stuff.
We could even have another space that's for volunteers and organisers. You could have a space just for organisers if you wanted, you know, a closed one, and then you could have a wider kind of bigger space for other volunteers who might like to get involved as well. Whether that would make sense, that's really easy to set up.
Yeah, a more public space that lists events for repair type organisations.
Yeah, sure.
And yeah, call outs for volunteers, absolutely.
Okay.
With I guess a general question about usability, Brendan, if people do get stuck a little bit on the interface, so I mean, because it's not downloading an app from the App Store, it's from a different supplier, and I understand why you do that. But
sorry, it is through the App Store. It's just called Mighty Networks, and then
Mighty Networks
for Fixable. Yeah.
Right. So again, I'm just, I guess, a leading question, but if people get stuck, they could email you or ask for help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, please feel welcome. Yeah, you can even send me a message within the app or on the Fixable website.
Yeah. Okay, so is there anything else that we wanted to talk about in this space? Do people have a other shared platform or that kind of thing?
Are there any other platforms that people are involved with that, so this is for sharing this sort of information that we haven't listed so far? No?
I mean, there's Repair Café International has resources, but it's not what we're talking about in terms of a space to share that.
Yeah. Repair Café International has a Repair Café Australia page that they post on probably more regularly than any of us post on the specific things that we have set up.
I mean, one thing might be of interest, like Fixable, because Fixable, I assume it's like a nationwide kind of thing. I reached out mainly to, reached out for repair cafes in Victoria because we're Sustainability Victoria. But I guess, in terms of communication and sharing, you probably don't care whether you're sharing with people with Victoria or other areas in terms of that kind of information. Obviously, some specific stuff like when for AW, which is Victorian media, you might want someone to talk on behalf of Victorians, so you might want to have a Victorian group.
I think actually a lot of it is state specific, just because so much of the regulation is state specific. Right. Not everything. But...
Yeah. Okay. So, Leanne, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, thanks. As I mentioned, on the Australian Repair Network website, we try to update and keep abreast of all of the 107 repair cafes in Australia, because as I understand it, each state, whether it be the Department of Environment or whatever, there's no database of the repair cafes operating on a state-by-state basis. So we've worked with Karen and Danny at Mended Australia to try and get everyone's Facebook details so that we can represent all of the repair cafes in Australia. And what would be really useful, we are trying to work out how to do this, is if you're a repair cafe in Victoria, for example, and you're not on our Australian map, if you can send me and Karen an email, we can make sure that your repair cafe is up to date and on there, and your Facebook details and your Instagram details and your location and your operating times. We are trying to do that on a national basis because people contact us and ask, if they're in Tranging, New South Wales, where's their closest repair cafe, or in Wickerpen in Western Australia, and we like to be able to provide that information. So I know it's just another, thing to do as if you're a convener, but if you can pop onto our Australian Repair Network website, we do have that map. And if you see that your details are out of date, we know that there's been about 6 or 8 have closed in Victoria, so we've tried to keep that up to date, but that would be really useful because we do get a lot of interest from people in rural and remote areas who aren't in the network about where they can connect with their local repair cafes, and that's a service we're trying to do. We're also trying to talk to the federal government and each state government, because what we're aiming to do in Queensland, and I'd like to see it in every state, is actually have a repair cafe repair and share convener for each state. Tool libraries, toy libraries, but also repair cafes, and one person who can do all this coordination, almost like what you're doing, David, but you're doing it from the kind of environmental sustainability aspect. But there's also the social services, social inclusion, community strengthening aspect as well, which we're trying to build in Queensland. So, you know, our aim is to have someone for Queensland who can bring all the toy libraries, tool libraries together with the Repair Cafe network. I've been speaking to EPA in New South Wales about that same role, and we would love to see each state support a role like that, so that then we can build a national network around repair and share in Australia. Scotland has it and it works really well, and that's a long-term goal. But I think, you know, you've got the makings of it. Queensland, we get together a lot as a local network. And obviously through you, David, at Sustainability Victoria, you're pulling the Victorian ones together, which is fantastic. But wouldn't it be great if we can link in with, you know, South Australia, Western Australia and Tassie, and bring everybody together so that we can have these national conversations around this. And that's what I'd really like to see.
Yeah. And I think, yeah, there's probably a challenge that my program is finite, so it ends early next year. So, but I think you're right. It would be good to connect, the repair cafes with the tool libraries, with the toy libraries. The toy libraries have a central association. So Wilson was in the last forum that we had. So there's like a toy library association, and I guess even with those kind of, you know, support bodies, you know, you always find there'll be some toy libraries who don't know about them. They're not in. They're in. They represent most, but not all. It's the same with neighbourhood houses. There's, you know, there's a peak body association, but there's still a couple of, you know, houses that are in or not in that group. So it's good to have membership, you know, cross membership, and you cover everybody. Because there's also, there's the Repair Cafe, the International Repair Cafe website, but that's only for people who've registered with them as an actual repair cafe.
Yeah, in Australia, there's probably 75% of the repair cafes in Australia have signed up as part of the International Repair Cafe Association, and that costs €49, and you get to use their logos and their banners and their badges, and not everyone has done that, and they don't need to do that. So the International Repair Cafe does provide some information, but we need something here in Australia to represent ours. I think that's what we're really working towards.
And I think this is in it because I met Ben through Western Health, but I don't think I found him on that website. And Scott and Helen, you're starting a new repair cafe, so you're probably going to think, okay, what networks do we join? And it's not that they're exclusive, but sometimes, you don't know about something and you're off, you know, you're on one radar and not on the other. So that would be good to have that kind of resource kit too, about, you know, when you start up a repair cafe, what activities do you want to do? Do you want to do workshops? Do you want to do just repair days? There's sort of some things to, I guess, consider.
Joining the International Repair Cafe is there's a nominal cost, but it's not compulsory. You can nominate your own contribution to join to that.
Okay, well, there's probably not much more we want to talk about online. Might talk about some of the questions that Rowan raised about capturing donations. So you put a few questions here, Rowan. I'll try and bring them all together, which is, do cafes have trouble with people donating? How are cafes capturing donations? And if people are running a workshop, do they charge a fee? So maybe some of that sort of little funding aspect. Then I know, Catalina, can you do the workshops? Did you charge a fee for those? Or?
Yeah, so, and this seems to be area specific as to how much, but all three of the areas that I'm doing stuff in have found that if you don't charge anything, people say yes and then don't come. So everywhere that I'm working with now, charges a fee, and this is not just through this project, this is through the other stuff I do as a volunteer as well. Otherwise you can expect a 50% at least no-show. But the amount varies. So Railway, they keep it to kind of like $5 to $10 tops. Alphington, which is a bit further out, is kind of $10 minimum. Darabin tends to sit kind of $15, even though it's pretty much the same as Alphington. And Richmond seems to sit kind of around like $15 to $20.
So if you're government, you have like competitive neutrality. So either you charge the commercial rate or you don't charge at all. As community groups can charge what you like. So you can just charge a nominal thing, which might be just to get a personal commitment. So it's more about a behavioural trigger than an actual need to recover money. What do other people think? Do other people push the donation wagon?
If I can just come in, I'm just interested to know, do you advertise those donations as suggested donations, or do you advertise it as a fee for repair? And the amounts you gave didn't specify for which repair. So someone maybe
sorry, that was
slowing done might not cost as much as an electrical item. So do you charge for everything and it's a flat rate for it regardless of the time it takes or the materials it uses?
Sorry, I was talking specifically about workshops now, not the Repair Cafe events. So
that was regarding workshops.
Sorry, that's specifically for workshops. The Repair Cafe events that I've involved with are all completely free with donation. Only Darabin does donations are invited and welcome. The other two are through neighbourhood houses, and the feedback they give is that donations tend to get complicated. So they have chosen not to at this stage. That might change in the future. Is that
because people want like a tax receipt or something, or is that?
I think it's more about setting up how to collect that money, because they don't want just cash.
Right.
But they also haven't got like a tap and pay or anything set up. Like they just don't have anything set up to just.
Yeah, if you have a booking system like Event, right?
Yeah, it's not hard to add in. It's just a case of.
Yeah, the administration cost.
Yeah.
If you're running by volunteers and you've got so Paris has got your hand up, and then Helen. Also, Rowan, were you responding, or is that your hand up from before?
Well, I'd just love to hear from everyone on how they do, how they operate in terms, because look, let's face it, we're donation based, but you do need money to buy materials. We use glues, WD-40s, needles, thread. You'd like to give some back to the venue that's hosting you so that they can pay for the electricity, tea bags that get used. So it is a bit tricky because you don't want to feel you're coercing someone into donating, but we also don't want the repair to be devalued. We want them to be able to think, well, if I had to actually replace this, what would it have cost me? Yeah. We want it to be valued, because there is a dollar value in it. And I think there are always going to be people who unfortunately will take advantage. And even within my volunteer cohort, some are more comfortable than others on seeking a donation. But what they're realizing is that when we do get donations, I buy things, and that makes it better.
Okay.
So we've got tap and pay. I know Marie at Ringwood uses tap and pay very successfully, and I just wanted to hear what everyone else was doing.
All right, we've got a few hands up, so we'll go around then. So Harris.
Yeah, so we have a donation box for cash donation at our registration table, and often there's no one there, so people don't feel uncomfortable leaving a donation if they're like around other people, like if that might add to some discomfort. It's just me and them or whoever's at the registration table. And we also are fortunate to have a tap as well. And some people are incredibly generous. They leave $50 for their repair. And I actually find it hard to accept that. I kind of say, no, don't leave that much. Let's not tell Melee that. They so very, very generous with the donation. And we do say donations like welcome, but it's not needed. And especially if people are struggling financially, we don't want to apply any pressure on anyone to have to leave a donation, but we'll send people off to get a part, a bike tire or something else that's needed for the repair. So yeah, that's what we do.
Thanks. Helen, you had your hand up, and then Danielle.
Yes, thank you. I was just going to make a comment in relation to the workshop. I think all of us through our life experience have run or been part of hosting workshops, and invariably for community, even when you're hosting a workshop, people certainly value it more if they have to make a payment for that participation. And it doesn't have to be a large amount, but there's a higher chance of getting a better turn up on the day, even if they're paying $5 or $10.
Thanks, Helen. And Danielle?
I think Paris has probably said what I was going to say. We've got the similar system happening. It's not compulsory, but it's always very, very welcome when we receive them for consumables. But then also, I suppose that another part of it is potentially trying to continually seek even small amounts of funding from local businesses or Bunnings or somewhere like that that can provide you with those ongoing consumables. Yeah.
Person, yep.
Sorry, I just wanted to mention the sponsorship dollar. Thanks, Danielle. Yeah, so it looks like we will have some sponsorship from a local private company, which is fantastic because of course we need funds to buy necessary tools and lunches for our repairers, and any other costs that we don't want our volunteers to bear, travel to an event or anything, other kind of costs. So yeah, seeking that sponsorship dollar is important, and I think for us it's valuable doing that rather than going for a grant, a community grant. So but as all the other neighbourhood houses would know, there's so many programs that we're trying to run. So yeah, we have to be judicious, and I can't say it properly, about what grants we apply for what program.
I have a question in terms of if you were so charging a donation to the point where it becomes almost like a fee, where you go, okay, so if it's a bicycle repair, which we'd ask you to make a $20 donation if it's a whatever. I mean, would that change the nature of what you're talking about? Is just a general donation, whatever you feel generous about, no pressure, give that, versus a like where you go to a cafe and there's the compulsory tip at the end when you go to pay. Does that change the nature of the donation? Yes. Danielle, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I think it does. Like I think I've mentioned this before. One of our repairers, he's actually left and joined another repair cafe in Forest Hill, who's quite lucky if they're here today. But we have lots of inline switches that need to be replaced in lamps, and they're actually quite expensive, the inline switches. They're like $12 each or something. And so he would always make mention to people when he was replacing the split switches. And people would feel, I think sometimes they'd feel a little bit compelled to actually pay for the switch, but that's not really what it's about. I think once you start having a paid service when you've actually also got volunteers who are donating their time, it becomes very messy. Do you know what I mean?
So I think,
yeah.
So kind of in summary, what we're saying is that donations are good, but generally you don't want to prescribe them. It's you just want to encourage them, because you do have anything that helps supplement the income is good. The challenge for some cafes is the administration of accepting the donation. So if you have a way to maybe accept cash, but no one has cash anymore, otherwise you've got to use your Square Settle, and then you've got charges on top of that. You could use, if you've gotten a booking system, because I think that's what we talked last time, with some cafes had a booking system. So, that's a better way. In a way, you can use Eventbrite to collect money through donation, but at the same time, there's still administration costs in getting that back. So that's, I guess, the thing people have to balance up, whether it's worthwhile or not. And Danielle and Helen, you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, sorry, I wasn't sure if Danielle was going to talk. We're proposing to say a gold coin donation would be appreciated. We're putting it on our flyers and information. And at May Lee's suggestion, which I presume, Paris, is what happens at Mernda, you know, people can say when they're registering through the QR code to book a time, what they're repairing and what they think the problem is. So, i.e., if it's a bike and the tyre's flat, maybe they can go and get an inner tube and bring it with them when they come, so that they've got the replacement part if they're aware of what that replacement part is that they need.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's a separate thing too. And again, I think probably add to that about when it comes to donations, probably a different thing. Yeah, parts. If there's an actual component that has to be coming out of the repairer's pocket, that's a bit different. That's like just, and I think a lot of my experience is the repairer will go to JCar or go to, you know, wherever and come back next time and we'll help you put it in. Okay. I guess the only other question here was about, yeah, people then want a receipt for tax purposes or whatever. Is that a problem with donations?
Depends on the organisation how they're set up, really. Like we're part of Moonee Valley Sustainability, which has certain not-profit things, but not taxable, whatever the thing is for donations to tax deductible.
Helen and Rowan, you had your hand up. Is there anything you wanted to add? No, you're good. But from previously.
No one's ever asked for a receipt.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Okay, good. Beck, had your hand up?
Yes, I do. Just on that point about charging a fee or whatever, Rowan, I hope it's all right if I talk about our example of the hemming, because I think it's a good one. So I'm one of the sewers, and we've had a couple of instances of people bringing in pants to have the length taken up, which it's sort of more of an alteration than a repair. We had someone recently who came in with 2 items, brand new with tags on, wanting the hems taken up on one and another address to be altered so it fitted. And it's sort of, both of them took a long time, and I was doing the hem and felt sort of under a bit of a pressure because the item had been bought for a special occasion and, you know, was going to be worn for this. And so Rowan and I have been having this discussion for a little while about that kind of thing, like that's sort of an alteration, not a repair. Do we charge for that because it does take quite a bit of time? Do we send them to a local tailor who does that alteration? Like it's quite a tricky one.
What the ones that we do is we tend to, pretty much across the board, tend to discourage alterations. Like ultimately it's down to what the individual fixer wants if it gets to that stage. But if it gets caught at the booking stage, they tend to get an email being like, hi, this is an alteration, here's some places you can go for an alteration. Like maybe a little thing of like, why it's an alteration, not a repair. So that's how the firm involved with kind of deal with it.
And I think that's like we talked about the last forum, but Beck, I think you weren't there, but we talked about how do you manage expectations. So like if somebody going to turn up with their washing machine and clearly, you know, just lugged it into the car and you can't flex it, you know, we don't have washing machine repairs. So the more upfront you are about what your capabilities are, can do, can't do. And I think that goes, you know, again, it's a bit like the electrical, isn't it? Where you go at this point, you really need beyond the capacity of a repair cafe. You'll need professional repair for this.
Yeah, thank you. Rowan and I we've been back and forth sort of canvassing all those different aspects of it. So it's interesting to hear what others do.
There's also,
Thank you.
like, what I think we were talking about last time, like we don't want to be taking paid work away from services that kind of
Yeah.
do this as a paid thing, and alterations, I think, very much falls within that.
We also talked about last time about maybe a directory of local repairers that wouldn't be something that we would, you didn't need to individually create a list of places around your area that can do certain types of repairs. And I think that's really good to have available for the fixers to refer to.
On that, and I just sort of moving on that, because I think we touched on this last time too, but also having a director about what to do with items that can't be fixed so that they are disposed of thoughtfully. Or, you know, so if your genes are beyond measure, and don't take it back to salvos because they won't want it either.
And if your microwave is beyond repair, to disable it in some way so that it doesn't get plugged in, that kind of things. Yeah.
Did anybody want to comment on what they do in relation to that? Have they got systems in place to handle that?
We mostly use the knowledge of, because that stuff tends to come in,
So
and the repairers will tend to know for their area. We do have a bit of a list, but it's not kind of anywhere obvious or easily accessible kind of at the event or online. So it very much relies on people being sent that list. So it's not, we have it, but this is for Darabin. We have it, but it's not hugely functional. It probably needs some more action.
that might be something I can look at soon, because and again, I mean, even our own kitchen, you know, we've got a long which bin goes, which stuff goes in which bin. But it's about, often repairing, you would probably have more difficult to dispose of items.
We tell people to take time. We don't do
anything. But advice about where to take it to a transfer station and where that is nearby. A lot of people don't even know, live in Moonee Valley and don't know where the Moonee Valley transfer station is. Having those available to your fixers to be able to communicate to the people bringing their things in is useful. Also, knowing where to get spare parts on the day is a useful. The various local places to get those from is useful too.
Leanne, do you know of any central resource for repairers to, like, you know, where to get rid of stuff that can't be repaired? Or is it too complicated on the national?
Yeah, it is too difficult on a national level, and it's really difficult to recommend commercial services as well, because some people will favourite one commercial service over another, and then we kind of get complaints about repairers favoriting different businesses in their local area. So usually what our advice to repair cafes is, to ensure that people understand that there are service providers in certain things for zips and alterations. Generally, most repair cafes around Australia won't do alterations because it's not a repair. And often that if there's a private arrangement that wants to be made on a personal level with a repairer, on a commercial basis later, you take that outside the repair cafe space generally. But in terms of where to put things, it's different in every state about where the best place to recycle plastic or metal or whatever it is. So I think, we've got Brisbane's Sustainability Agency. I work with them so that they've got all the information on their website about if you've got a broken, Mixmaster, where should you take that? They have that all information, because that's something that everybody in the community needs to know, not just people who come away from a repair cafe. So I think, it's too complex for a repair cafe. Look, repair cafe people and volunteers are so flat-strapped generally. Little basic things like we've been trying to work with the repair cafes around data collection, like how much are you repairing, how much weight are you saving from landfill, what are the common types of things being collected, and the feedback we get across is just we're so busy doing the actual repairs, we can't even manage to do that data collection, because on a national scale that data is really useful for our regulators and our government to understand what how much contribution we are all making together, So I think we don't want to burden the volunteers anymore. They're really doing great stuff.
No, I was thinking more about, if there is a resource for some of that easier to get rid of or hard to get rid of stuff. That's
Rowan mentions councils and being a good source in Planet Arc, and definitely are.
Planet Arc. Oh, yeah.
And council should really have that information available too.
Yeah.
And may I just add that as part of the Victorian Government Sustainability Action Plan, as you will all have noticed, more and more businesses are jumping on with stewardship programs where you can recycle items, and that will just become more and more embedded in everyday society. But if you're looking for a quick place to look stuff up, most local councils have directories of where you can recycle things. Planet Arc have created an Australia-specific directory of where items can be recycled at end of life. And then we've also created a list within our Repair Cafe, and we have a resources table, and that's a table to educate the community about, and they hopefully it's laminated and they take a picture of it, and then they can walk away with that information, or they can walk away knowing, oh, there's a website. So there are a lot of things happening. It's just putting it all in one place, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, one that's reliable and gets resource going, we could do it, but then, we'll keep it up to date for a few months. And then
I think reach out to your local council and ask them to provide you a list, because they're the ones that will keep that up to date and know where things are.
Okay.
My council have a digital directory, so it might be worth just checking out on the council website. Most of them are on board as the overarching plan to be more sustainable as a state.
Paris, you had your hand up before. Did you?
All good. I just wanted to mention, just back to vetting, repairs, etc., that we've also spoken with our steering group and about having a PDF that we can attach to our booking system, which is Humanitix, that has a list of what sort of repairs we can do. So under each item, electric, sewing, etc., and just give it helps with that initial vetting process. And then through the booking system, people will tell us what sort of repair they're going to do. So then we can get back to them and tell them, get some more information, consult with our repairers, etc. So that community don't come. It all sounds a bit like too much work, Rowan. And there was something else, but I've forgotten because, that's all I wanted to mention.
It's okay. You mentioned trouble. Can I segue just quickly into looking at this capability thing? Because one of this is a question about having systems in place and that kind of thing. But I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at this. It's a 2-pager. I'm just going to share the screen. What I was thinking, this could be a bit of a framework if we were doing something when we're talking to people who are starting up, like Beck, or like Karen, to start up a repair cafe. So some of the things that you might need, and I'm trying to think, well, this doesn't describe every cafe has to have this, but like maybe sort of a best practice if you're thinking about this, these are some of the things you need to think of. So encouraging use of repair and resources. So specifically promoting, so I'm on the first one here, promoting events like pop-up repair events, regular cafe sessions, online repair discussions, tool sharing, education about repairing. I'm not saying that every cafe has to do this, but if you're doing a repair cafe, you'd be thinking about planning activities like this. That would be one of your things you'd need to consider. How do we do that? Then establishing a baseline need. This is something else that cafe should think about. So developing a mechanism to find out what the knowledge is, the local buy-in and attitudes. Should have an understanding about also consumer capabilities and making their own repairs, and the limitations of volunteers and repairers to help.
David, I think Rowan's.
Yep, Rowan.
Made a comment. No, legacy in hand.
Right.
Leanne's also Leanne.
Yep. And then you can say if this is similar to your resource or not. So if there's copy,
Yeah, no, it's not. And I think we can't forget that all conveners and all volunteers at Repair Cafe are exactly volunteers. It's really hard to dictate what they should and shouldn't do when the people are giving of their own free time.
Yep.
I really think this is where the onus is on, you know, some funding to help assist the repair cafes achieve certain things. But we can't expect repair cafes, you know, these are not people who are in paid positions. And I really think it's really got to be stressed that government departments can't be telling repair cafes what they shouldn't do. It's just like
so it's use of the mandatory language. So we would like to, if I put it that, more aspirational.
And Leanne, it's Candace here. Sorry I'm late. We just had another forum around asbestos, but this is more of us wanting to understand what are the capabilities that are wanted, needed by those working in this sector. As a bit of a guide, it's not about us telling repair cafes what they should and shouldn't do. It's really us just trying to understand what are the capabilities that you require, need, would want to build over time to offer these kinds of services to your communities.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I can provide you with lots of research. As I said, you probably won't hear at the start. We've just surveyed all the Repair Cafe conveners and volunteers in Australia for them to share with us their experiences around the challenges and opportunities that they're experiencing. And overwhelmingly, the issue is that they're all volunteers and they don't have enough support from their local council and their state governments.
And I guess what we're also saying is, you know, for a cafe to work, they need to be able to do these things, and that's what they need the funding for.
Yes.
So if I change it to should to want to, be able to. This is what I'm, and as I said, I'm trying to put a bit of a framework in terms of what do we want to be able to do as a cafe? So planning an event is something you want to be able, you need to have some capacity to do that. And yeah, either that is provided by volunteers or it's provided by funding. So
and look, a comment just came up, something along the lines of government sounding. That's exactly why we're testing that here.
Yeah.
Because we are government, but obviously, and you're not. And we are trying to work out what we can do to, you know, make sure it's actually, you know, hopefully fit for purpose and useful. And if it's not useful, then we could spend our time doing other things instead.
Yeah. So you want some capability to plan events thinking about the space that you've got, the local demographics, the demand and the availability for events.
I think I'm talking between two things. Like this is more like how I set up the thing, but I like talking to the people I know who have set up these events. It tends to be much more kind of like simple. Basically, it's like, you know, one or two or a few people get together and say, we want to run a repair event because we like repairing things and we think it's important.
Yeah.
I think like they seem like people in that situation tend to refer to more kind of simple things, which is like step one. Like actually I'm thinking of the Repair Cafe International. I think they have a little list. It's things not necessarily that, but things like that, where it's literally like less focus on the why and more on the like very concrete how. Like step one, you need to work out where it's going to be, where the equipment's coming from, who's going to do the repairs. You know, you're going to have to work out, you know, where you're going to promote that. These are the things you need to do, like, you know, roughly to, like, it's very concrete, very simple steps with not much thinking of like kind of kind of these like more like behind the scenes kind of thing in a way, if that makes sense.
Yeah. This document reads like something that if it was a paid for or sponsored by a Sustainability Victoria entity, then this is what a cafe should do.
Yeah.
But otherwise, that document could read
It drains the fun out of
the ideal,
organising.
the ideal model of a repair cafe should do this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I think, 'cause I took this from a framework that
Yes.
simplified it.
Yeah.
But
And I think if you were to then have a document that goes to repair cafe coordinators, that would need significant rework to make it accessible and inviting and useful for someone to actually develop those things.
yeah, that's first, it's my starting point
Yeah.
on this. That's why I wanted to
That's,
see
yeah, for
that.
sure.
Daniel, you had your hand up?
Yeah, probably it's been said now. I was just going to say, I think, well, from my position, I am a paid worker, so it is useful to me. But also I think that maybe if it was framed in a way where it's more about how people could think about different challenges that they might come across rather than as prescriptive, it still would be useful for volunteers as well.
Yeah. And so, I mean, if you look at the sort of the heading, so, and I look at it from point of view from Scouts, which you've got plan, do, review. That's kind of what we're saying is, you know, we want to be able to, as a repair cafe, we want to have the capacity to think about what we've got, what activities we're going to do within our group. So in a city, got some a lot of repairers, we can run workshops. Other groups, we're just going to run repair events because that's what we've got the space for. So that's the idea of doing this framework, to say, okay, here's some of the key headings, and then, okay, what to consider. So I don't know if it's useful then to go through that whole document, because that's what I wanted to sort of like, I can simplify the language, that's no problem. If I've got the right kind of, these are the kind of the 12 topics we need to cover.
I'll have a look at it in more depth.
Yep, yeah, okay. Rather, because it's quite, it'll probably take a while to work through that. Leanne, you said you had a resource before.
We developed one in conjunction with the Queensland neighbourhood centres around how, if you were interested in setting up a repair cafe in the neighbourhood or community centres, and it's a 12-page document because there's a bit of a partnership between, and I think it's the same in your state, between running repair cafes out of community or neighbourhood centres or community organisations, and because they provide a venue and insurance, and they're the two big challenges for repair cafes. So our document, we've developed that with the neighbourhood centres Queensland. So I'm happy to share that with you, but we can take out the Queensland specific stuff because it's something that we're looking at developing across Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like some of the topics that we've discussed should be some of the things that people need to consider when they set up a cafe. Like, what are the risks involved? Do we have adequate insurance? What kind of repairs do we want to do? What kind of, do we have waivers? Also, do we have the tools? Where do we, will the repairers provide them? All those kinds of questions.
Yeah, and often there's questions around should we incorporate, because more and more some repair cafes are for insurance purposes are incorporating. A lot of insurance policies don't cover bike repair, so they talk about bike servicing instead of repair, and that gets around that particular problem. So there's a whole lot of aspects about whether to use a tri-booking or a human ticks booking system as well. So there's a whole lot of information, and what I'd like, ideally we can create it and circulate it so everyone can give some feedback, and you can everyone can add their 2 cents worth to it about the challenges that they see. But that's what we commonly hear on a national level.
Yeah, setting expectations. Again, that's So the booking system could be the tool to do that, or it might be you've got other ways of setting expectations by having a big poster up front when people sign in. Or having a concierge who can explain that. And that were the kind of things that I put in that framework. But maybe have a look at that. Paris, you're...
Yes, thank you. Such great information from you, Leanne. Really appreciate hearing about all the research that's been done and information available. Could I just go back to that mention of whether we collect data and how available is it? Have we got a framework or basic data we can collect in Victoria? Is that something Sustainability Victoria can help us to achieve before the program your support is not there anymore, David? And how do we work with Leanne to achieve a national data collection? I think that's incredibly important. And we collect data. We collect how much weight of repairs we are diverting from landfill and the type of repair that we're doing. So I don't think it has to be laborious, because for the reasons we've already mentioned today. But yeah, important.
But I could do like a table where we've got and circulate to everybody, and it's up to everybody to chip in about what data are you collecting, how often are you collecting it, like is it once a month, once a week, at every event, and what are you collecting, weight, type of repair, that kind of thing. So at least I guess the first thing is see if is there consistency in what people are collecting, and then I mean the reason why you collect data is to show value of the organisation, to therefore attract funding or community support. So there's no reason why I couldn't do that as part of this process, at least.
Yeah, I think it's really important to be able to say this is what repair cafes are contributing to, waste reduction in the whole kind of ecosystem of waste. Yeah, and I think finding out what sort of data we're collecting, but a way for us to pull it together is necessary.
Yeah, Rowan, you had your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to share, and most of you may already be aware of this, but just chosen not to use the format, that the International Repair Cafe movement does provide a website. I've put a link in the chat, Repair Monitor, and you just create an account and you can digitally log all the repairs that you do. Now, my cafe uses that format. It saves paper. And all of that data is then collected internationally from all repair cafes that have registered with them. And they use it to lobby governments to change right to repair laws. So I think that's really significant, because we need to have better repair laws. But it is a good point that having something national that is more specific to our environment would be helpful. And yes, it is good to know how many kilos or how many items you saved from landfill, but we often need this data as also for grant applications. And it doesn't seem that many of us are doing formal evaluations or research or surveys or anything. So we do sort of would be good if you could lead the way on the grants that you offer, to say this is the sort of data we'd be looking for, maybe create some sort of platform for us to log it there. I don't know, it's just an idea. But repairmonitor.org has worked really well for my cafe. It's very quick and easy to do. And then
there might be something, yeah.
We just created a slip as well. So people come in, they get that, they register at one table, they go to another table, they give their repair, and then they see the repair and that comes back to the repair table. And then if it gets busy, we've got paper versions and it all just gets logged. Very quick and simple.
Leanne?
I was just going to say, I just typed it in. this very issue around how to collect data, what's the best method, was a topic that was discussed at the community repair conference that we ran at the National Library last year, but before our Australian Repair Summit, which we've run 3 years in a row. Brendan spoke. Collection of repair data. All of those events are recorded. We actually got James Pickstone and Ugo Valieri from the Restarters group in the UK. I paid them to do a presentation about Let's Talk About Repair Data. They talked about all the different options. The Repair Monitor is a really good form. It's got good categories. One thing that we in Australia need to think about is that the EU and the UK focus more specifically on electrical repairs and consumer electronics and appliances. So their data collection doesn't really cover fabrics, textiles, mechanical things. So that's what most of the repair cafes are adapting that a little bit and adding their own categories. So you can watch that recording, and there's something like 37 people who joined that and discussed about their different methods of collection, and it would be great. You know, everyone does it their own way though at the moment, which is something we're working on.
Can I just add to that, Leanne?
Yeah.
Sorry, maybe I was wrong. I thought that they do collect data on all items that are repaired, but it just so happens that electrical is the highest category of items that are repaired. And so they actually run data reports, and you can read it, nice colourful charts. You can get all of that information there. I might be wrong. Is it not that it's just electrical's the stuff that's breaking the most, and they want to say, okay, you know, Sony and Sanyo and whatever, you need to make changes? Is that sort of what it's about?
Yeah, they do collect it more broadly. Yeah, you're right in that the electrical stuff is what they're really targeting, you know, more in terms of their big data, you know, collections. There's also the fixometer as well. So there's a couple of different international models out there. Some of the repair cafes find it a little bit challenging because they require too much information about serial numbers and model numbers and things like that. But you can actually break it down and do it a little bit more simply. So, but it's certainly worth having a conversation and dialogue, because it is a constant challenge for everyone. Everybody wants to collect data. Our Productivity Commission wanted to see the data on how much repair is making a difference in our communities. And so it's great if we can collect it.
One thing I'll say that's a downer is that you can export the information from the Repair Monitor website. I was hoping I could export it. It does show you all the repairs that you've done, but you can't export it into a document to print it. So I think that would be nice if they changed that. And actually got a personal email from Martina, because I had a new volunteer logging things, and she was new in training. And yeah, so I got an email from Martina just saying, please don't add brand new categories. But a very pleasant and lovely email. I was quite excited, actually.
So I mean, the good thing is, yeah, if there is an international standard, everybody's following it. That's the sort of thing you want to do. You don't want to have people collecting different things to meet different criteria. We don't want to set up a new criteria. Helen, you had your hand up. And Daniel,
Yes.
After that.
Thanks for that. Just following on from Rowan's conversation and Leanne's there, I too have been on Repair Monitor, and their results from last year, of the 10 categories listed, 4 of them were in relation to things other than any electricals. And you're right, Rowan, it does seem to be that it's on the quantity of those items is the order in which they appear. It's quite fascinating that they actually include, I thought it was anyway, the makes and models that need the most attention. I think that's pretty fascinating. And that could, I'm wondering whether that's something maybe Consumer Affairs already, already know about, but there might be some information that could be shared with the community to help inform them on the types of products that require less attention. I don't know if that's an arena we want to get into, but it's certainly a very interesting website.
Yes, it is. It has heaps of information, and it's really nicely and easily presented, I think, anyway.
Okay. Danielle, did you want to comment before, or is that was that a legacy?
I was going to ask whether it was possible to use the Repair Monitor to actually look at Australian data, or it doesn't break it down that way. But then I think Rowan really answered the question in terms of not being able to export anything. But I mean, I would say that collecting serial numbers and that kind of thing, I think, is way beyond our capacity. So, I mean, make some models possibly, but serial numbers is just way too much.
They do have on their graph, the pie graph, it shows you the amount for what details they've got of Australia. It gives you a breakdown of the different countries from whom they're getting information. I don't know if that's what you're referring to.
I can spot, put you on the spot. I mean, what are we interested in when we had our grant?
Very good question. Because yeah, the discussion we're having worked in government and with various types of sort of materials over time, this is a very common kind of discussion around data, and you know, maybe we need a database and we need a database that's specific to us, and you know, this idea of can you add categories and whatnot. Like, we've grappled with this for so long, and we've developed some databases over time, and what we've found is, unfortunately, there's a whole lot of back end stuff that has to be done to sort of enable and support those databases as well. So you've got to fundamentally ask yourself, like, what is the need? What's the data that we actually need for what purpose? And I feel like I've totally digressed from your question there, David.
Well, I think the thing is, well, what data are people collecting, and is that going to be of interest to funding bodies?
Yeah, and my view is, at the moment, the focus is very much on what's being diverted from landfill. So, which to me is still very much a very basic ground level metric, because I don't know that it, for a sector like this, I don't know that that's really going to tell the story. But I like the fact that, Rowan, you were talking about, or someone was talking about, right to repair, and how important this kind of data and information is to start looking at policy and regulation and procurement and how we can affect change there. Because the reality is, you know, we're seeing consumption patterns, they are not going backwards. And we're also seeing that, you know, this idea that companies need to have this kind of system set up to enable repairs isn't necessarily happening. But I do think with data, SV at the moment, it's still kind of what's being diverted from landfill. But I think it would be great over time to come up with more meaningful metrics that really tell a story of the importance of this work and that connection to community. And so the capability work that David's doing is one way we're trying to kind of look at a bit of a value add, but it could be something different or something else. And Leanne, you know, your point around funding, totally understand where you're coming from, and it's a big issue for community organisations in general, not just in this space, but a whole bunch of them. But I think coming up with a couple of really meaningful metrics that demonstrate that value is going to be really critical. And I think diverting waste from landfill, to me, it's, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I just don't know that that's the one that really tells the right story for yourselves. But happy to hear otherwise if it is.
I think it's not, but I don't know, like, so the actual useful data I get is people telling me stories.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do you put that into a data format?
Yeah.
Like, you know, I can give case studies.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually what connects with people, which is why it's like, it's a powerful source of information.
Yeah.
But if you're then coming to, you know, grant applications, or all right,
Yeah.
I want to see your material impact.
Yes.
To hand like a piece of thing that's like, oh, here's like stories from like the however many people who've told me what they're doing with what we've done. Yeah, if you're looking for numbers, like there's this mismatch between like, so the value is told in stories, but people on kind of the other end of things seems to want numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's easy to say the amount saved from landfill.
Yeah.
So not saying you do with repair, like we'll go back, like if somebody took in a washing machine and you replace the knob, you go, wow, that's 100, kilos.
That's
from
right.
landfill. And
Yeah,
in fact,
one thing. That's right.
one
That's
thing,
right.
and it might only last a year. It's going to go into landfill anyway.
Yeah.
Versus, if you maybe save a highly expensive watch, would you actually save money or other things like that.
Money, sentimental value, and like I think sentimental things, like the data from that, because a sentimental thing will always hang around longer than something that isn't.
Yeah.
Or you've changed the attitude of somebody's attitude to waste, which is what you really want.
That's what you and how on earth do you measure that?
Yeah, that's right. That's
Yeah.
right. What's your attribution to that person changing their purchasing habits or whatnot? Because there's lots of little things that
right.
people are exposed to. So it is really
That's right.
difficult and challenging.
So I got my record player repaired from Aldi, and what I learned is not to buy from Aldi. That's what saved a lot of stuff from landfill. Yeah.
I think, can I just say that, because I'm working on the right to repair movement, this is one of the challenges that we face. It is also, we have got funding in Queensland from our Department of Social Services because the repair activities that our at-risk youths and people with disabilities are engaging in are changing lives.
Yeah, that's
it is
right.
not only about waste, it is about reducing economic waste, it is about addressing competition, it is a training and skills discussion around Australia doesn't make things, but we fix things. So who's learning these new repair skills, the transfer of knowledge between generations of people of our grandparents' age and the young ones, but this whole social behaviour change, and this is how the Europeans are approaching it. They're funding huge consumer behaviour change about repair instead of replace, and it encompasses all of those things. It's not about landfill.
Yeah.
I mean, the other challenge too in that whole about kilos saved from waste is people go, wow, you've saved, I don't know, 300 kilos from landfill. But landfill is how many millions of tons a year. It's just a drop in the ocean. But you go, but that's from just a few repair cafes. So you got to put the scale of it in. You got to put in context of the repair cafes and what potential could be achieved if it was a larger scale movement.
And we have had internal discussions. If you were comparing tons diverted from landfill from a program like CE Communities Fund versus maybe some of the business funds, you cannot compare. Like they're talking about huge tonnages, we're not, but what I'm trying to demonstrate through the program, and we've only just sort of gone through our first iteration of this, and we're dealing with lots of different materials, including the stuff we're talking about today. But yeah, it is really starting to think about what is that story? Like, what is that story? What is that narrative? What are these types of projects really? What are they really doing in terms of, tackling things like isolation? People having not being connected to their communities. Like there's, the social impacts. Given time, if we can start telling more around that, I think
that's the cafe
that,
part of it.
Yeah, absolutely, it is. Yeah,
and I think that is a challenge that every person working in the repair space in Australia is. We know the impacts in social inclusion, educational training, but how do we show that? If we can't get funding in the first place to pull that data and stories and narratives and experiences together. And this is across all levels, but we have such a focus on recycling and funding waste that this whole conversation around a first responder, if we can change people's belief that they can actually get something fixed instead of buying another one, we're addressing the huge elephant in the room, and that's consumption. These are the kind of big conversations that somebody really needs to tackle. But all this work is being done, but we can't scale it up unless we get some help from someone.
Ryan, you got your hand up? Yeah, and I get, look, so this is the thing, you've got the data we collect because that's what we've been doing, and it's better than not collecting any data at all, at least to tell some part of the story. And certainly we can collectively, cumulatively get that, what is everybody collecting? Are we collecting the same thing, and if so, then it's probably worth collating and having in a central spot like Fixable. You know, you could have a point where we update this, just a spreadsheet. And then if somebody's applying, they can go, well, repair cafes in Victoria say X tonnes of waste from landfill. Here are the top 5 repairs that were done.
Yeah.
That's the baseline data that we've got. It's better than nothing. Broader conversations can be had about ways to tell the story of the value that repair cafes add beyond simply saving stuff from landfill. Which again is a complex story because you don't know how much of that would have gone to landfill anyway, you know, how much might have been recycled. The thing that you repaired. But yeah, we could at least find out what people are collecting, what they're collecting on a regular basis, and plonking that in a spreadsheet. I hope it's the central collection point as we do that whole capability. That piece of the guide for the new starters for new repair cafe. So, so to draw underlines, so the action point for that is that people are collecting data, but we need to know what we're all collecting, whether it's of the same. And then of the same stuff we've got, can we compile that and put that in a central point in a online forum like Fixable or Facebook or whatever you want to use to keep that information together. And again, I can circulate this to the other cafes who didn't participate because maybe they'd like to contribute. They weren't able to make this forum, doesn't mean they're not interested. Okay. Are there any other issues that people wanted to raise? Because we're getting close to the idea we finish about 1:30 for lunch at 2 o'clock. There are other questions that people wanted to raise. Scott, has this helped in terms of your thoughts of what you need to look at in setting up a cafe in Williamstown?
Yes, it has, and yes, it has, and I look forward to seeing some of those. I've heard a number of people talking about documents and guidelines, and if I could just be on the mailing list for those, that'd be ideal. I hope to get down to the Altona Repair Cafe over the next couple of months, and the time at Moonee Valley was very good. I actually saw Charlie in action fixing some stuff. So yeah, that'll be good. Thank you.
And Ryan, we've covered all the issues that you wanted to talk about.
Oh, it's been a really robust conversation. I think it's great to have Leanne here and, you know, everyone here just sharing their perspectives. Would have been great to see Karen from Mended Australia here, because Mended Australia are all about lobbying for right to repair laws. And I think it's important to note that the efforts of repair cafes can be increased if government change laws that allow items to be opened more easily, to be repaired more easily. Because really, let's face it, they're being designed to not be able to be repaired. And the governments are allowing that to happen so that companies can make big profits. So it is what it is, and that's a global issue. And that's why the Repair Cafe movement have the Repair Monitor. But until that happens nationally, and we are a lot more serious about what is now a legal requirement to collect e-waste. My own council do not provide an e-waste bin. There's a collection point, a drop-off point. People are not going to take a 60-inch smart TV into the council office when they're working 9 to 5. So I think when those, you know, higher end of town issues, government issues are looked at, we can then affect more change in our community. For example, I had someone bring in a heater and it needed this, and there was, you know, all sorts of tools in the room on Sunday for the Repair Cafe. And it needed a certain screwdriver we had about 100 screwdrivers and we didn't have the one. And they said that's been intentionally designed that way so that it can't be fixed. Apple, Mac, iPad, you know, computers are changing the screws so that people can't open them up. So we really need to get things built to last again, or at least be built to be repaired. And then consumption's going to be lower. People are going to be able to fix things and the world's just going to be a better place. Are Sustainability Victoria working with the government on these sorts of conversations around repair laws, making parts available as well?
It's not something that SB, I mean, we do to an extent, but it goes well beyond SB. So, yeah, we definitely have those types of discussions. But yeah, it's a kind of massive complex web that we're all just trying to work out what our piece, what our role in that is. But the more data and information we have from this type of forum and the work that we're doing with your kinds of organisations and providing grants, the better. So
yeah, with after the Australian Repair Summit, because there was a lot of focus on right to repair in those discussions. Is there anything that sort of like should be the key issue that there's so many things?
Yeah. Thanks, David. Look, this year at the Australian Repair Summit, we're holding it again next year on the 9th of August. It'll be in Sydney next year, so I flag it for everyone. We offer it. It's a free conference. We try to get everyone along. We're dealing with it across all of the dimensions of repair. This year, we tried to run a panel called the State of Repair, where we anticipated having every state talk about their repair initiatives and what they were doing. Unfortunately, Sustainability Victoria, which are doing fantastic work directly funding repair cafes, we couldn't, unfortunately, at the time get someone to present, but we are trying to engage across all those levels. So we've got a new commissioner of the Productivity Commission. The Productivity Commission has identified 16 key recommendations around product design, around the barriers, about how to support community repair. We're still pushing all of that, how to change the laws, which laws, not to be restricted into the waste area. We've got right to repair laws in automotive sector, they're competition and consumer laws. We work with Choice. Karen and Danny are on my steering committee. We talk about this all the time. So please talk to your local members. Please invite your local members along to your repair cafe so they understand the great work you are doing and engage them and have conversations around that. That is how we will spread awareness about the multidimensional aspects of repair. It's not just about waste, and unfortunately, we can't be pigeonholed into Tanya Plibersek's environment portfolio. It's about consumer rights. It's about education and training. It's about knowledge, skills. It's a lot of things about societal change. And that's a conversation we're trying to have across all sectors of government. So I really welcome everyone. I'm happy to talk to any of you. I'm travelling around Australia to repair cafes, happy to present, happy to talk to your local members. You know, we need to push repair all through the community, and the repair cafes are doing the hard groundwork with everyday people about understanding these issues. And I'm happy to share any of the conversation pieces or publications I've done with you all so that you can also talk about the challenges that we're facing here in Australia. We are lagging behind now, the USA and Europe, and we were leading at some point.
I think, are there any other issues that people wanted to cover? So again, what I'll do is I'll do a wrap up of the discussion. So I've got the transcript. We'll put the video on YouTube. We'll share that with everybody that I've got on the list. And if I've missed anybody, please fill me in. There was a question about welding. That capability statement, I'm happy to refine it further. If Leanne, if you can forward me the resource that you've got, people can give me feedback on, you know, just what are the key areas we think people starting up need to look at. Here are the, like, you know, the 12 questions you need to ask yourself if you're setting up a repair cafe. That would be very useful. And finally, too, I think we people can get into that. I'll recirculate the link to the Fixable group, chat group, so I can put some of the comments in that, and maybe we can start some more conversation on things like, a topic like welding comes up. That's something we can put in the discussion chain. as well, and we'll see if that works, and then aim to have maybe one more follow-up session in the new year if people are around. That's always a difficulty for my program, but mine's up. Danielle, you had a hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Leanne if it was going to be a hybrid conference.
They always have been. We started in 2021. They've always been online as well as in person.
Thank you.
And all of them, and every session on medical device repair, agricultural machinery repair, consumer electronics, a product label for Australia, all of it is recorded on our website. So you can go back and watch all 3 years worth. And I did do a special Thursday before last year's on a community repair, and it was a full day about community repair and repair cafes. And we had speakers. Brendan spoke about Fixable. We had Brigida from New Zealand talk about the New Zealand Repair Cafe movement. So there's a wealth of resources there if you want to have a look at them.
Okay. Well, you're online. You'll probably dying to take a break and have some lunch. So thank everybody for logging in, and hopefully I'll see you again in the new year.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, and
Thanks very much for hosting this forum. Greatly appreciate it.
Thanks very much, David.
Thanks all. Well done.
Thanks,
Thanks
John.
everyone
Thanks
for your
for joining.
contributions.
Okay. Bye.
Thanks, Leanne.
Bye.